Welcome to the Stumbling Spirit, contemplations on the path of resilience. Whether you realize it or not, you are resilient. It's your birthright. As you take in your next breath, know this truth. It's not only about your capacity to overcome difficult situations, but it's about your courage to do the necessary work to heal, learn, grow, and move forward. What you gain is invaluable wisdom. And it's through these hard stumbles in life that we often discover a new purpose that aligns with our spirit. My name is Fabio da Silva Fernandez, Reiki Master, Mindfulness Coach, and Mystical Explorer. Join me weekly as the Stumbling Spirit podcast highlights the lives of extraordinary people like you, sharing transformative stories and beneficial practices of resilience to guide you on your wellness journey. Indian yogi Sadhguru once said, "Karma is your survival and your bondage, and if you handle it right, it can also be your liberation." For Edith B. Kiss, this quote might well be her mission. Born in communist Hungary, she grew up at a time when spiritual expression was suppressed. As a young woman, Edith did what was expected. She went to university, got her engineering degree, and started a family. However, during this period, she also battled crippling anxiety and panic attacks. This all-time low set her on a path of spiritual growth and wellness, including healing ancestral karma. Today, Edith integrates several holistic modalities to help others mend their karmic wounds. It's a pleasure to welcome to the show holistic therapist, success habit coach, and author, Edith B. Kiss. Hello, Edith.
Hi, Fabio. Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't we just start with the obvious question? What is karma?
Wow, karma is action. So basically, when you are thinking about karma, you need to think about the consequences of your actions. So when you are mindful, it means that you have positive thoughts, you have positive emotions, and you make your decisions from there. So you make actions which create a good outcome. So the karma is always about taking the right actions, which is obviously not jeopardizing others and bringing just, positive things into the life.
You also mentioned that it's about thoughts, and it's also about intentions, isn't it?
Yes, obviously. I mean, intentions is thoughts, and then the intentions can come from many sources. Like you can have an egoistic intention, and you can have a higher perspective intention, which coming from your higher self.
You've explained what karma is. So what is ancestral karma?
It's basically you can inherit ancestral karma into your life. So if your ancestors done something which is under the law of karma, some karmic debts, can return in your life as a pattern, and you need to make the choice again what might they missed on, and they made the wrong choice and they created karmic debts. So then you're gonna have the same challenge showing you like, okay, what decision you're gonna make now? What kind of action you're gonna take now? And if you take the same negative action, what they've done, then you're staying in the same karmic cycle and you're bringing it down into your lineage. But you always have a choice.
Okay, so I think this is important, right? So I'm aware of the concept of generational trauma. So there's this concept that we carry over 7 generations of trauma, and it's really a matter of us breaking any sort of patterns that do not serve us any longer. But when we talk about an ancestral karmic issue, I'm making the presumption that it could very well be related to our lineage in the 3D realm, but also might relate to who is a part of our soul family and perhaps souls that are not on this physical plane, that perhaps we walked on this earth in past lives. So can you explain that a little bit more to us?
Yes, soul family is really interesting because you would assume that they are only like your relatives, but soul family is everyone who's encountered to you in any lifetime, right? So it could be your coworker, it could be, because they already have an effect on your karma because you made a decision through them or by them, So basically the soul family can include many souls who you had encountered, and basically they coming into your life again to going through challenges, to bringing you learnings, or blessings, all kinds of things. So that's how you can imagine. And then the other thing is, which is important for people to understand, that sometimes when we think like someone dies, then, they are on a good place now because they don't have the pain after a, illnesses or something. So we assume like, oh, okay, now they liberated, they are fine. But we forget that they still have the traumas. They still brought with them their betrayers, their emotional pains is still with them as a soul. So when we're working on ancestral healing, we help them also to heal. And then that actually can reflect back to us as blessings into our life. So it's very complex. When you start your own healing journey, you need to heal all of these layers, and you start healing your soul family while you're doing so. So whenever a person takes on the responsibility of healing in a family, you basically start a ripple effect and you're healing the soul family, the all.
I'm envisioning it right now as a web, as a network, whereby, in that one intersection, let's say, is one soul, and if they sort of work on their karmic wounds or resolving whatever their karmic debts are, that it creates that ripple or wave across the web to help other souls that they're connected to. This is a very interesting idea because I always had this impression that when we go over to the other side, we have our life review, and somehow in that connection with source, that there's a healing process that takes place almost automatically. But what I'm hearing you say is that we're very much a part of that healing process on the physical plane.
Yeah, it's not automatic that we got healed as soon as we pass by. No, we need to work on it in next lifetime, next lifetime. So basically, I had so many clients and myself also experienced that when I was working on current triggers and current issues and diving deep into the traumatic experiences, we ended up in past life traumas to heal. And I also had experiences with family constellation therapies when we basically had to so we invoke the souls who already passed, like grandmas, grandpas, and then we still had to work with their spirits to them to show love and forgiveness and appreciation and acceptance. And as soon as they healed, that had a ripple effect in my life.
So I want to get to the specific practice or practices that you do to help heal ancestral karma, but I just want to sort of unpack this idea a little bit more. So it's not only about healing our own karmic debt or wound, but it's about helping other souls within our soul family. So if I have a loved one who's passed away, and let's say there's a trauma within our lineage, our soul lineage, right? That I'm having to deal with. So what happens? So I resolve that, and then what happens to that soul?
It's gonna feel the effect. Yes.
And then when they feel that in a positive way, what happens for the future of that soul family from a healing perspective? So I'm assuming that there's a pattern that's broken. What ends up happening?
Have you thought about it that sometimes you meet people who just seems lucky, like they were born with a, silver spoon in their mouth, or, they go through life without any challenges. It seems that their life is just so lucky because they had great karma. They were amazing people. They had amazing past lives. They were always being great people. So now in this lifetime, when you meet them, you just say that, wow, they're so lucky. Everything just so great for them. So if you go through your healing journey, you doing karmic depth release, you doing ancestral healing, you are starting to experience the lucky syndrome in your life.
But could not someone come in this lifetime that would have an existence of suffering just to maybe show others how to live through suffering with grace? Like, could that not be a mission for a soul to come on this plane so that it's not necessarily about their specific karmic debt, but it's about them showing and perhaps helping other souls through their
Absolutely.
suffering?
Yeah, absolutely. That's of course like if you have, for example, a healer archetype. So there are different archetypes. So if you are a healer archetype, then you were always a healer in every past lives or every lives. And then you entering your new one, then you actually have to get into that healership or like to become a healer somehow. And it needs to be certain challenges or pain points to actually take that on like like your life path. And probably that's why you're going through challenges. But how bad or how deep or how devastating those challenges are, obviously, it depends on past karmas as well and how much you are protected from the other side or how much you are taking care of, you know. So there are many aspects to it and how much you allow yourself to go deep or to suffer, you know. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a game like you need to play, right? So it's like there are points, you collecting your points. So when you come here with a sole purpose that you need to be a healer, of course you need to create that in your life too. You need to go through those steps and build it up yourself, that becoming a healer, and it needs to start from the foundations. I mean, I know some of my friends who actually since childhood they knew they were a healer. They already communicated with angels, had the sensations, you know, they felt people, they had this powerful already within them. For me, the only thing what I knew when I was a child that I had very vivid dreams, like all of my life. Like every time I go to sleep, I'm going to another place, and then I just love sleeping because I'm having adventures. So that was since birth, but I didn't know actually even that it was special until later I found out like nobody's dreaming that way all the time like me. But then the really getting into spirituality was like when I was searching for kind of like a religion because I wasn't, you know, growing up as you were saying. So I was kind of like, oh, it's interesting which one I should pick. So I started to read books about Taoism, Buddhism, all kinds of religions, you know. And then I was even really connected with history and I loved history and mythology. And then that also showed me like I have a big connection there. So I have kind of memories coming up, you know, coming back from my past lives because I'm so connected. And then as I started the Reiki healing, that's when my real conscious spiritual growth started.
I want to get into your journey, but I really want to discuss a little bit more about this concept of karma. So, how do we know if we're dealing with a karmic issue?
So karma is again about actions and about decisions. And basically, when do you need to make decisions is when you have challenges, right? You are in a crossroad. And every second or every minute you make a decision, you're creating a new future for yourself. But when it's like a challenge or when it's like a decision about creating karmic debts or making good decisions, that's when you are in a karmic situation. What is karmic debts? Some of them are so basic that you wouldn't even think, but it's like because we break it every day. Many people, like lying, that's karmic debts, you know, not being honest. Disrespect, being disrespectful to parents, teachers, that's karmic debts. Doing fraud, scamming, karmic debts. Using harsh words and violence towards others, it's karmic debts. Gossip, jealousy, karmic debts. So people going through life creating karmic debts every day in maybe every hour, as if they are that kind of people, you know, if they love experiencing these things which I just mentioned. So it really requires a whole shift in personality if you're doing those things because the society, if you look at the society and the society's expectations, they're kind of pushing you to do these things, right? It's like the white lies, you know, not to hurt the other person, or by you seeing all of these things you feel jealous of, you know, like people flexing and stuff like that. So the whole society is kind of encouraging you to create karmic debts day after day. But if you are aware of this and if you have the conscious decision, like I don't want to create more karmic debts. I want to make sure that I'm actually creating good karma. Then you need to be more, compassionate, in mercy and kind. And, there are certain ways how you create the good karma, basically, and then following that line. But it's really going against the status quo in this society.
But I'm just wondering about this idea, this concept. Okay, so what if I did something in my past life? So let's say I broke someone's leg. And
Mm.
then in this life, I'm walking down the street, I trip, and then I break my leg. So if I'm a believer in this concept of karma, and if I break my leg, do I say, oh my goodness, I must have broke someone else's leg in a past life, so I'm paying for it now?
If you broke your leg, just spontaneity, your way going down somewhere, I don't think it's karma. Because with karma, usually you connect with other people. So if you did it to someone, that someone has to do it to you. So it's like more like someone, a spirit or other soul is coming in to do to you the similar thing, because you're experiencing it on the same way.
So, in that same analogy that I shared, if someone were to walk up to me with a bat and broke my leg, then
Yeah.
that could have been the karmic debt.
Yeah. But it's always like, have you had a choice? Maybe you were walking in a bad neighborhood, where people just walking around with with a baseball stick. But, it's like to being conscious about where am I going? What am I doing? Am I enough, cautious about things is important, because we are in a hustle culture. Everybody's running, hurrying, we don't pay attention for so many things. And then that's how we ending up in situations. It's just more about having time, being patient, counting till 10, sleep on it, having that kind of attitude would solve so many issues.
What happens if we don't clear ancestral karma?
We're gonna have lots of challenges in life, and then our children gonna have challenges in life. We just gonna go from one hole to the other. It's just like, just look around. Most of the people don't heal that, right? So basically, when you don't heal it, then you're just going through this motion of life when you are many times down and then up and down and up, and then you just experiencing lots of challenges. And how they people respond to that, they say, oh, I'm getting stronger because I'm going through these challenges, and this makes me stronger. Because of course you need to say something, you need to somehow pick yourself up, and then you need to continue getting stronger. But basically, if you can heal these karmas, then you have a much smoother ride. And then if you are able to heal these karmas, then you're probably pretty much connected with the source and with your higher self. So then you're still going to be motivated and encouraged to grow and evolve through another way, instead of always telling yourself that I'm actually changing and evolving because that bad things happen to me. You can evolve and change through your purpose, through your intuitive thoughts or visions. You don't need to go always into a rabbit hole or into a situation to come out.
Do you work with the Akashic records?
Yeah. So when we do the source memory healing, we actually going back to this lifetime or past lives, and we changing the emotions and the releasing the negative emotions from the traumatic experiences. Then we basically rewrite the Akashic records.
And just for my listeners, the Akashic records are essentially a database. It's a database of all of our actions, our thoughts, our intentions from this lifetime and past lifetimes, and it's recorded. And so that serves as the
It's like a balance sheet.
it serves as a balance sheet that really results in what your current existence or lifetime is supposed to resolve. So I want to find out a little bit more about that. So when you're tapping into the Akashic records, are you working with specific guides?
So in source memory healing, I work with your unconscious mind, and then I work with the superconscious. So basically, we enter a very low brain waves. So when we can access the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is who's bringing in the memories which are related to your issue, and I work with the supreme pure consciousness to release and heal it, and also getting downloads as a resolution of that situation.
So I really want to unpack that idea of you tapping into the superconscious and how you actually do that in a moment. But I want to talk about the soul star chakra because in listening to another podcast that you were talking about the importance of the eighth chakra. And the way I see it is that this chakra sits above the crown, so elevated above the head, and that it is effectively a plug that goes into the outlet of divine consciousness. And there's this invisible cord that's connected to the crown and to the rest of the chakras, and that's where we receive the information. So, can you maybe explain to us why is it important when we're dealing with karmic healing? Why is it important to deal with the eighth chakra?
The eighth chakra is the portal to open up your multidimensional existence, to actually step into this karma vortex. And where is not just your, but as we talked about, the ancestral karma is there, and also the soul family karma. So basically, the soul star chakra is your eighth chakra, is the chakra of the aura, but it's also the portal to access your multidimensional existence and be able to step into those layers of yours and heal.
I'm glad that you mentioned the multidimensional aspect because, when we think about quantum physics, that, they talk about how there could be like many different universes and how there could be many different selves. So, what does that mean from a karmic perspective? So, when we're healing our ancestral karma, does it also impact our other selves, like the other versions of ourselves in different universes, or is that something that you don't believe in? I'm just curious about what you think about that.
I would say, I'm not saying I don't believe in, I would say I'm not dealing with those. I would say I'm dealing with the concept of this earth and then your soul on this earth and then connected with your soul family and basically your multidimensional existence in this universe. Or, yeah, because we talked about like parallel universes, I'm dealing with this universe.
That's good to know. So, obviously, you believe in past lives. Do you know who you were in a past life?
Oh yeah, I had many experiences. I've been in Egypt, healer. I've been a wife of a pharaoh. I was healing also in temples in Egypt. I also been a witch in Germany. I also lived in Netherlands. I also lived in Russia. I also lived in Rome in Italy. I also lived in UK before. I was actually Saint Edith, the daughter of King Edward. Okay, I have shivers now. I also been in Mexico. I've been in Aztec. I've been in the Aztec Empire. I also been in Texas a couple of hundred years ago. Yeah.
When you said that you were edit, what do you mean by that?
I don't know if you know the story. So Saint Edith was is a daughter of King Edward. It was 920s, that kind of times after Christ, and then she married to a Viking king, but they were only married for 6 months because the king died. After that, she became a nun and she was healing people and she was living in temples and cloisters. Then she became a saint because of her healings.
So, edit was your birth name, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not a name that you decided to change
The
it
whole,
to.
no, the whole thing, the Edith B. Kiss is in my birth certificate.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. To my listeners, what do you think of this topic? Do you believe in past lives and paying karmic debts? Do you have any personal experiences that you would like to share? Let me know your thoughts of my conversation with Edit B. Kiss. Just DM me on Instagram at The Stumbling Spirit. I want to go back in time a little bit, Edit. What was your childhood like growing up in communist Hungary?
I was always an optimistic, happy kid. So I loved animals. We had a big garden. I was having fun there, but I was overweight. So I always had a low self-esteem, being overweight and felt ugly, and just I felt unhappy about that I wasn't capable doing, certain exercises or whatever I wanted to do, and I wasn't looking nice. So that was like a negative aspect of me growing up. But I really was happy about, like, I was smart smart. I was always on the top of the class. My mom was a teacher, so she also had like big expectations to me. But I hated school because of the bullying. I hated school because of the way of clicking, all of those things. So I had success in studying, but I didn't like the whole network or the whole thing which was happening there. Even in my teenage years, I still was in this situation that I didn't like this clicking and bullying and those kind of things. What I really loved is the summer because my father, he really loved traveling. So we went abroad. We went to Greece and Turkey. And I so believe that I have a Turkish origin because I was born in a town called Turkish Santa Nikolaus. And we had the Ottoman Empire in half of Hungary back in the days, and then I believe I have DNA, Turkish DNA. So I love Turkey as well. So we traveled many times in many countries in Germany, and that was very eye-opening for me because living in a communist country, everything you have only one kind. There is no variation. As a child, I had one kind of eraser, one kind of ice cream, one kind of candy. That was just like everything gray, it's like really weird. And then I went to Greece, and then suddenly 100 kinds of ice cream, like it was like magic. And then I went to Austria and like 100 kinds of erasers with all kinds of fruity smells. So insane. So I love traveling. I loved experiencing these new things. And then I sometimes brought home back to Hungary, all of these new experiences, and I brought it to school. And then I gave it to the kids, and they tried, these things like brown bread or white chocolate, which was not existed in Hungary. So it was insane. And then the other thing, eating ice cream with banana. Can you imagine? We didn't had ice cream with banana in Hungary because ice cream was a summer thing, right? And in Hungary, you could only buy bananas at Christmas. That was the only time when they brought it from Africa to Hungary. And oranges and bananas was only available at Christmas time. So, you have no ice cream at Christmas, you have no bananas in the summer. So when I went to Germany and first time I ate ice cream with banana, I was like, wow. So yeah, so that was my love for travel. And then I'm a cosmopolitan. I lived in like 9 countries from New Zealand to Netherlands. I lived in many places and I love traveling. I love experiencing this beautiful world. And I think it's coming from my childhood.
In your mid-20s, you experience anxiety, panic attacks. You have already an established career. I'm just wondering, how bad was it?
I was traveling, like always. So I was in a foreign country. I was in Mexico at that time when I first had my panic attacks. And I didn't know what was happening, why I'm feeling this way, why I am feeling dizzy, why I'm having certain fear. And then what is this? I had no clue what was happening. And then a friend was there, and then he took me to a doctor, and then they give me a tranquilizer. And then a couple of hours later, when I took the tranquilizer, I was freaking out of the effect of the tranquilizer. So it was like, like a cycle. So then I went to the hospital at the middle of the night, and then they give me a shot, but maybe it was just a placebo thing, just to calm me down. And then I felt better, but I decided I'm never gonna take medication again for panic attacks. So I had to find some other solutions. And that was when I actually tried first some herbs, so the St. John's wort, for example, is really good. And then I also tried exercising, like tennis is really good for mental health because it takes your mind away of your thoughts, because you're following the ball. And then the other thing was the Reiki. I started to have Reiki sessions, and then later I decided to learn how to actually do Reiki. But the thing was with Reiki, it was able to manage the situation. And it was for decades that I was just managing the situation, and how bad it was a couple of times a year I called the ambulance to pick me up because I was panicking and I had no idea what was going on. I always felt like, oh, maybe I'm having a heart attack or maybe I'm having this or that. It's just like insane. And then as I was started to learn about source memory healing, and then I started to use source memory healing on different situations in my life, also on my panic attacks, then that's how it stopped. And that's why source memory healing was for me so powerful that was made me the decision to actually move from Hungary to, eventually that time I was living in Hungary. So to move from Hungary to UK and open my business, because I said, this is something what everybody should know about because it's just life-changing and life-saving.
I want to explore source memory healing in a moment, but I just want to get back to your anxiety and panic attacks. You were having these panic attacks a couple times a year. You would call an ambulance, you'd get there. But in between those incidents, those moments, was there something beneath the surface that you were dealing with on a constant basis before you experienced those peaks?
It's interesting because when you have a busy lifestyle, like you have two children, you have a job, even you dealing with something, you don't take it seriously. You put it under the carpet. It's like, oh, it's nothing, or oh, I just need a coffee, or oh, I just need a nap. These kind of things. You try to fix it quickly because then you need to take care of your child, or you need to take care of your business, or whatever. So it's like it was a constant firefighting, or how you say this in English. So basically, that was happening, and then probably after many years, when I was actually quitting my 9 to 5, that was the point when I felt that I'm just done. It's like I was overweight. I didn't like myself. I was feeling drained. And then I, even at the weekends when I supposed to have fun, I was still fatigued and felt like dizzy and all kinds of situations. And I was guilty. I felt guilty that I can't spend time with my children even when I'm weekend because I'm not feeling well. So it was a toll on my whole mental and physical situation. And then I was blaming, of course, everyone and everything. I was blaming that I have a car, so I can't walk enough and I'm always driving, and then I was blaming the company where I worked, or, because it's stressing or whatever. And then I just decided to quit the whole thing. And we went to New Zealand and we stayed there for 7 months. We were looking for a job there, though, so we were in an immigration thing, but it was like a extreme reset. It was like a true reset in our life because finally I started to have time with my children, started to get to know them more because it's insane how much we don't know about them when we don't have time. It's like we're living with them, but not truly. Like wash your teeth, go to sleep, eat your dinner, make your homework, something like you have only time for this. And then when do you have time to really connect, to sit down with them, to talk to them, to look into their eyes? And that's what I missed so much. And when I was in New Zealand, I had extreme amount of time for that. Just listening to them, just being with them, it was awesome, and just experiencing the life with them. So that was really amazing. And then in that 7 months, I was actually using the Reiki science, the master science on me, and that's how I started to lose weight. And that changed my life. Dropping 20 kilos is completely changed my self-esteem, my worthiness, my way of communication with people, the connection with people. It's opened up like lots of doors, just me thinking differently about myself.
Just for my listeners, Reiki is essentially energy medicine. Think of it as a spiritual massage where you are unblocking the energy centers of the body if there are any blocks there, just clearing the energy system. So I just wanted to clarify that for my listeners who might not know what Reiki is about. You say that Reiki was the gateway to you cultivating your spirituality, and you talked a little bit about the evolution of that. And you just talked about source memory healing. So, can you explain what source memory healing is?
Yeah, so it's one of the Adiyogi Shiva technique. So I learned it from my Karma guru Sumant Kaul, who came to Hungary for some weekend trainings. And I wasn't looking at that time, I wasn't looking for any spirituality, or I wasn't looking for any training or any solutions, because I was actually in a time of my life where I felt great. I felt great about myself because, I lost the weight. I felt great because I was a contractor. I didn't need to work 9 to 5. It just seemed that life was much easier, and I wasn't looking for any solution. But then they found me and they asked me to help them to translate or to come to that place. So I went there. So it was really an accidental, like synchronicity or serendipity or whatever. So I went there. And then the first time I did the samadhi meditation, it was already really powerful for me, like activating the pineal gland for the first time. And the second part is the source memory healing, is like you activate the pineal gland, you transcend. So it's a type of transcendental meditation when you are in delta brain waves, and then you basically start producing all the necessary hormones on a boost. So already the meditation brings you to a very good place, but is not going to help you on a long-lasting way if you're not doing the deeper work. So source memory healing is the thing which can bring you sustainable results. Even Reiki is, I feel like Reiki is a quick fix, you know, when you clearing your chakras, but the chakra is going to get blocked if you get triggered. Because when you get triggered, you feel negative emotions and you're blocking your chakras. So that's why people always need to go back to have another Reiki and another Reiki, because they are all continuously triggered. So what's happening with source memory healing is that you, as you clear those rooted traumatic experiences, the trigger is going to stop. And then you're not going to feel those negative emotions related to that issue we cleared. So you don't need to deal with the rest. So basically, that's why it's sustainable, that's why it's long-lasting, and it's also a very gentle and profound healing process. I deal with lots of clients from PTSD, depression, and they are tried everything like speaking therapy, hypnotherapy, and nothing really worked them. And this is something which they experience a huge relief at the end. And sometimes they say, oh, the therapies can be so draining, or the therapies can be so heavy. But this actually, at the end, they are smiling and feel liberated, you know, and feel lighter. That's the great about it. So basically, in source memory healing, what we do, we start with the meditation, because you need to transcend to be able to access the unconscious mind. And then we also focus on one of your current issue. So in one session, we deal with one issue. And people have several issues. So let's say you have a physical illness. Let's start with that. And then that's your current issue. And then we dive into like what kind of emotions you feel about this physical issue. You feel sad, you feel hopeless, you feel unsupported, or you feel frustrated. You can have all kinds of emotions, right? Or you feel worry, fear, anger, whatever it is. And then we communicate with the unconscious mind to collect all the memories which are related to this issue. And the unconscious mind is going to bring it in one by one, as we're calling it in. And we stay with one memory until we release it. What does it mean to release it? The client accepting the memory, I'm always telling them to be very open-minded, and whatever comes into their mind, that's the memory we need to work on. So they go into that memory, and then they either tell me or they don't tell me what they see. It's okay, because sometimes, you know, it's abuse, sometimes it's sexual abuse. So I don't want them to explain me what's going on there. They can just tell me the emotions. They can say, I feel betrayed, I feel used, I feel disgusting, I feel whatever they feel. And I then go and release them to source through certain guided lines. And then I release it from their ancestors, I release it from their soul family, I release it from time and places. And then I replace it with positive emotions like love, forgiveness, safety, you know, these kind of things. And then they literally imagine that it's leaving their body. They literally imagining that it's leaving them like a black cloud or whatever it is, you know. And then basically, then we go back to the memory, but we are in a column of light. I mean, they are in a column of light, and then they need to do the forgiveness. So that's the point when some clients, easy for them to say, okay, I forgive to myself. So first they need to forgive to themselves, and then to the other person. When they're experiencing difficulties to forgive to the other person because they're holding grudges, you know, and it's so much, then I always explain them that only 5% of the time you take action with conscious mind. The rest of the time you take the actions through subconscious or through superconscious. So it's really, you can't point your finger on a person that did it for me, or he was the cause, because it's might your karma, might your ancestral karma, and even could, come from environmental effect to the person or the subconscious programming of the person who did it. When you are in your conscious mind, you wouldn't do most of the things what they done, right? And then when they are back to consciousness, they are like, oh shit, what am I doing? So it's like, that's why most of the time they are under, some addiction. Maybe they are under alcohol or drug use or whatever it is, or any kinds of energies, whatever is affecting them. So when I explain them this, then they are more likely to say, okay, I forgive, because I understand that is actually not them as a physical person. And sometimes they're questioning because they love that person who abused them. Maybe it was their father, maybe it was their mother, and they are having a huge question, like, how could that person actually hurt me? And then when I explain them all of these things, they are like, yeah, that makes sense, more sense with my own beliefs. So then they, of course, forgive. And it needs to have a forgiveness. And then we also channel a final advice from source as a completion for them. And then that brings them more peace and more acknowledgement, more solution. And then we move into the next memory. So we go through the whole thing. And then at the end, we ask source to show how everything changed in the Akashic records and how the future gonna look like.
Do you do everything in a single session, or do you like tackle each challenge individually?
Yeah, so for example, we talked about, like, this is, let's say, a physical illness, right? Maybe they have cancer or whatever. So they have a physical illness, and then we start from that emotions and we going into the memories. That's one session. So next time when they go for a next session, we go for a next session, maybe that's the relationship with their children or the relationship with their husband, or, whatever is happening in their life, whatever is triggering them. So when I have this 1 month incubator, I call it 30 days incubator. I have it with my clients. Then in that 30 days, we're going through the most burning situations. But when I have the VIP 1 year, then we actually going through whatever comes, like, okay, today, how do you feel today, or yesterday, what came up in the last week, what triggered you, and then we work on that. So then literally, like, in couple of months, we can get the person into a state of, like, smooth ride and more experiencing of the lucky syndrome we talked about.
This is really fascinating, Edit. Thank you for sharing all of this. I had not heard of source memory healing before. So I want to tie this back to your anxiety and panic attacks. Do you believe that what you were experiencing was a karmic debt?
Me having panic attacks?
Yes.
If it was a karmic debt, it comes to the way how I treated myself, because I realized that where is the symptoms of panic attacks coming from mostly. So the symptoms are mostly when you are not taking care of your physical body. You're not sleeping enough, you're not resting enough, or you are getting into stressful situations, you don't have enough vitamins or supplements, like minerals in your body. So you are having deficiency in your body. So I always realized that I was having panic attacks when my body was weak, when I was having a flu, for example, or when I was having sleepless nights, or I was partying or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I realized, and then what could have been the pattern is, like, not taking care of myself and then neglecting my needs. And that could have been a karmic depth, like to having that choice or awareness, and making better choices in my lifestyle.
I know this might be too much of a personal question, but just share what you feel like sharing. What do you feel like you resolved from a karmic debt perspective?
Oh, a lot, a lot. So, no, I am very conscious about how I treat my body, what I eat, what I do when I sleep, everything. I'm very conscious about making sure I'm eating healthy. I'm having enough sleep. I really respect my physical body, my vessel, which I haven't done before. I thought it's just like something I can fix whenever, or, many people think like their body is not their responsibility. They think like, okay, I just book an appointment with the doctor because the doctor should fix me. The doctor should know, you know what I'm saying? but it's your responsibility, and you need to take care of your vessel because you are connected with your mental health, is connected with your physical health in many ways. So your mental health, if you are having these traumas and triggers, can ruin your physical health, but also your physical condition can actually amplify your symptoms in your mental health.
There's something I want to talk about because I think that this is a very important point. There might be listeners that are listening to our conversation and they're like, oh, am I supposed to blame myself for anything that I'm going through? Am I supposed to blame myself for the problems in my life? The fact that I have an illness, the fact that I might have a life-threatening disease. And I don't want that to be the message in this conversation. So I'm wondering if you can maybe speak to that point.
No, you shouldn't blame, you shouldn't feel guilty, none of those. Those are negative emotions and it's making you more sick. So I no, no, no. What you should do is accept and having the awareness that you are in the power of change. You held the power in your hands to change whatever is happening to you right now, to find a solution. So not looking for a solution, that would be a bad decision, right? So I always say, like, whatever is going on in your life, whatever you're experiencing, look for a solution to change and come out of it if it doesn't make you happy. Because the highest vibrational frequency what you need to reach for your well-being and for your, creating the best life, then is basically joy, happiness, and bliss. You need to go there. And how you can get there? Getting rid of everything which is not doing that for you. So if it's anything about your lifestyle, your hobbies, your habits, your, whatever is holding you back, take a list of that, what you need to get rid of. Take a list of that, like how you need to shift yourself and make sure you start changing little step by step. It doesn't need to be drastic. And look for solutions. We have the internet now. It's like you can find anything there. So basically you can find out what treatments or what to use or how to make sure that there are so many things out there which can already support you no matter what stage you are or where you are. And there are so many people out there who's doing things for free, because many people is thinking like, oh, it could cost millions, or it could cost so much money, or it could this and this. No, there is always a solution for free or cheaper as well. You don't need to limit yourself with this kind of beliefs. So just have the belief that it's possible. Accept your situation, because if you don't accept it, you fight against it, then you create more negative emotions. You're creating like, oh, I am angry because I'm sick. I am angry with the doctors. I'm angry with my body. I'm angry with this and that. Then you make it worse. If you're accepting your situation and you say, I believe that I can still change this. I believe that I have the power to change it and get out of this, then you're going to start coming out of this.
I like this idea of being open to the possibilities and also being open to change. And I've read about cases where people have spontaneous remissions if they have cancer, and that's amazing and miraculous. And at the same time, there are people that have an illness and they might not have that change to recover from that illness. And so, I'm a Reiki master myself, so I do believe in the body's ability to heal itself. I think where I'm coming from is when we talk about something from a karmic perspective, could not the karmic mission be to experience something like that? If we fall ill to something, could it just not be that we are meant to die of cancer or have another kind of illness?
My Reiki master used to say that you go through life to experience everything. So maybe in one lifetime you were a killer and in another lifetime you were killed. So that was her opinion or her way of thinking. But that was before I did source memory healing or I learned about karma. And then also my karma guru was saying about somebody, I can't recall who was it, who actually also had to accept his karma and died in a certain way in an early age. So it's one thing what you say is, I heard it from other people. Like I can say like, okay, it can be true. because other people is saying the same, like you said. But I want to believe that we are able to change our karma. I want to believe that we can actually shift these things, because every decision is creating a new parallel reality, new reality in your future. And might, in one reality, you die from cancer, but the other reality you recover, you know. And I believe that the difference between the two is your mindset, and then not just your mindset. I was just having this channeling while you were talking about the cancer, and some people actually die, some people survive. And I suddenly had the message that is not always just about our mindset, but also our environment. People can be around you who's actually thinking of you or having negative wishes, or how can I say, and that impacting your recovery as well. So if you are in a family, or if you are in a with friends or whatever, who people are around you who's not wishing you well, who's not supporting you, who's always angry around you, they doesn't even need to be about you. Just maybe they come around you when you have cancer and they fighting with each other. That energy, that fighting energy, that frequency is still hurting you, is still affecting you. So when you are sick, you should be, protected from people who's having these kind of negative energies, to make sure that you are in a nice high vibrational energy as you're recovering and you're healing. So it's really important also the environment, not just your mindset, but of course your mindset is one of the most important.
Can you maybe just run through what are the main components of source memory healing? So, just at a very high level, what I heard was meditation is a very core component of it. So, can you explain what the components are?
Yep. So first is the samadhi meditation, when we have to activate the eighth chakra and the pineal gland. So these two has to be activated to get into the transcendental state and connect with the karma vortex. And then basically bringing in the current situation, bringing in what was the current trigger or issue, and going through the emotions of that, addressing where do you have sensations in your body when you are feeling those emotions, so the unconscious mind can calibrate better what to bring in to release. Then we communicate with the unconscious mind, we ask to bring it in, and then it's gonna bring in the memories. Some people is very good at visualization, and they can visualize it easily. Sometimes the memories can come in like in a bunch at a time. Then I have to tell them like, just pick one now, and then we go through the rest. So it can be disturbing if it's not coming like slowly one by one. So there are so many cases how I deal with people on one-on-one sessions, because everybody's different. Somebody see a memory clearly, somebody just see a face, somebody just having emotions. Is very, very different for everyone how they experience this source memory healing. And then I need to be very experienced to know what's the next step to bring them the best outcome. So when they are in the memory, they need to experience it. I'm asking them questions. Obviously, I'm asking them how they feel, and then we go into the release. So when I release the emotions, they basically just stand by. I'm saying the certain sentences what needs to say for the release, from releasing it from every layers, and then change it to the positive things, and then waiting for them to release. And then after they released it, then bringing them back into the memory in the column of light. It's so fascinating that what is happening when you are in that column of light after the release. For myself, I experience a very unique thing, probably because I'm very intuitive or I'm very connected with the other side. But when I do these releases for myself, so first I see the memory. I see the situation. Let's say a past life situation when I was a witch and they wanted to burn me on fire. So I was there in a prison. I was ready to get burned, and I felt this and this and this way, fearful, whatever. And I released this, and then I went back to the memory and a column of light, and I was again in the same place in the prison. But the whole story changes. In that moment, something happens which is actually allow me to escape and go away and not getting burned. So for me, when I do this whole release and then I go back to the memory in a column of light, I see a brand new story unfolding. And then I say the forgiveness, and then I just finished with that memory. And this is just, I love experiencing that, because it's really showing how it's changing the Akashic records, right? And this is, I was asking my clients how they experience it, but they don't really go in through that motion, because they say, some of them, they say that they see the situation as a frozen picture. It was before an action, it was before maybe the abuse action. And when they went back in the column of light, it was just like the whole picture just froze and it did not happen, or it just froze.
What does resilience mean to you?
It means that you actually handle situations like you're not reacting, but responding to it. You're not reacting with negative emotions. You just respond, on a calm manner. That resilience. And many people is born with it, or not having traumas, or not living through traumatic experiences. Even they got triggered, they don't react. They are very calm and then they respond. So they are resilient. But the people who's reacting towards triggers, those are the one who needs more healing, basically. And as they got healed, they also not gonna get triggered because the triggers are stopping the patterns. And then they also become more resilient. So there is another thing that people can also become numb. You think they are resilient, but they are just numb, like to the situations. And they can still experience emotions within, and then that can still cause them physical illnesses. So when someone tells me like, oh, I don't remember traumas, I'm not getting triggered, but then I know they have physical illness, then I know they have something to heal.
What are your practices of resilience?
So the first thing I would recommend, or I would do or suggest, is the samadhi meditation, basically. So people who I didn't even need to work with them. I was just advising them the meditation. They already reported me back that just through practicing samadhi meditation, they became actually a more compassionate, kinder person, and having more focus, better sleep, and just more vital body. So it's because of the extra boost of the hormones you produce when you activate the pineal gland. So they already said that, oh, my mom has told me I'm a better person now, or I'm a kinder or more respectful person, or whatever. So basically just doing the meditation on a daily basis, you already shifting. It's already easier for you to behave, how I could say. It's like when someone tells me like, okay, how can I practice gratitude? How can I feel good about my situation if I am actually experiencing this and that? I am in depression or whatever. But then if you try to do it consciously, it's very difficult, right? But when you start practicing the samadhi meditation, it helps you to become that kind of more positive person, and it's easier to shift into that higher vibrations. So I would first suggest the samadhi meditation. I have it actually on my playlist in my YouTube channel for free, so everybody can go there and practice. And the other thing for resilience is basically if you're experiencing triggers, if you're experiencing PTSD and then anger issues, then basically you have things to deal with on a deeper level, and then you can become resilient.
I just want to clarify something. So are you saying soma or somatic meditations?
Samadhi.
Samadhi. How do you spell that?
Samadhi.
Samadhi. Samadhi meditations. And samadhi means what?
Is the state when your brain waves are really slow. It's like hardly having any brain waves. It's like that sense of being when you are one with the universe, like you are in the oneness. It's like the moment when you wake up in the morning, there is a second when you don't know where you are, in which bed, are you a boy or a girl, how old are you, nothing. It's just like that second.
How does it benefit you?
It's just keeping me more calm. Yeah, so I'm going to be 50 years old in July, and everybody tells me I'm looking younger, like at least 10, 15 years younger, is because of the samadhi as well, because during samadhi, you produce the growth hormone. And growth hormone is what keeps you younger looking and, brings you vitality. So this is one thing. And then the other thing is basically becoming more focused, more clarity. It's really easy to channel when you practice samadhi, is getting more breadcrumbs from the universe, getting new ideas. And the other thing is, as you activating your pineal gland, you opening your third eye, And the biggest thing is about third eye that when you have open third eye, you trust the process. You don't worry or you don't have a fear of the future. You trust the process, and then you just following your intuitive, your intuition, your inspired actions, you know. So it's like your life feels more effortless and more in peace. And then you feel that you know what to do. It's coming to you, the steps you should take. It becomes more effortless, basically.
You mentioned your YouTube channel earlier. How can people reach you if they want to contact you?
I have my Instagram, so editbkiss. I also have my website, editbkiss.com, and all my channels are also connected to my website. So if they just go to my website, editbkiss.com, all my social media is there, so they can click on the YouTube from there. My YouTube is Magical Karma Priestess.
Edit B. Kiss, holistic therapist, success habit coach, author, and source memory healer. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you, Edit, for coming on and sharing your insights, your wisdom, and for guiding others on their wellness journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to The Stumbling Spirit, Contemplations on the Path of Resilience. This is Fabio da Silva Fernandez. Join me again next week for another episode of transformative stories and beneficial practices to guide you on your wellness journey. If you wish, you can follow and DM me on Instagram at The Stumbling Spirit. Until next time, take a deep breath and another step forward on your path of resilience.